The Congressional Budget Office recently released a report that estimates that Social Security benefits will need to be cut by 23% in just over a decade unless changes are made to Social Security. And that raises a big question for those folks that can claim Social Security between now and then. And it's, should we change when we claim Social Security in light of those potential cuts? That's the question we're going to tackle in today's video. Hey everybody, my name is Rob Berger. This is the Financial Freedom Show, where we talk about investing, retirement, and financial freedom. If those topics are important to you, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. You can also sign up for my free newsletter. It goes out every Sunday morning. You'll find a link to the newsletter below this video. So let's dive right in. This is the report from the Congressional Budget Office. I'll leave a link to this below the video. You can see a fancy chart here that shows, yep, in 2034, we go from that blue line, which is the scheduled benefits, down to the green line, which is the benefits that the Social Security program will actually be able to pay out. If you look and read the details, you'll see that it's about a 23% reduction. That's the estimate as it stands today. Now, as we walk through how this might affect claiming strategies, keep a couple of things in mind. We're going to assume that this CBO estimate is in fact what happens, that in 11 years, benefits get cut by 23%. Obviously, that could change for any number of reasons, including Congress making changes, perhaps raising taxes or doing other things to more fully fund Social Security. So we're going to assume those cuts happen. That's the first thing. The second thing to keep in mind is there's no claiming strategy that can help anyone avoid those cuts if they happen. This isn't about some secret claiming strategy where while everyone else has cuts to their benefits, you can somehow escape those cuts. That's not what we're talking about. If the cuts happen, they happen for everybody. Really what it comes down to is, should you perhaps claim earlier so that you can get your 100% benefits for more years until those cuts take place? And I've got a free tool that I'm going to walk through with you that can help you make those calculations. In fact, let's get right to it. Here it is. It's called Open Social Security. It's a very easy tool to use. We're going to walk through it. Let me make it a little bigger for you. One thing I want to point out, if you go to this About section here, this is the page that you would see. It walks through a lot of details about this calculator, and I highly encourage you to read it. One of the things I want to point out is this highlighted text here. One of the things the calculator does, it actually goes through you or I living to 115, but as you can see, the calculator multiplies the annual retirement benefit by the user's probability of being alive in each of those years. So this is a probability weighted benefits calculator. That's an important thing to understand. One approach is just to say, oh, I'm going to live to be 100. And that's in fact what Maxify does, a tool I looked at recently. And I suppose if you see Social Security as just longevity insurance, maybe that's a perfectly reasonable approach. I like Open Social Security's approach a lot better because, again, it's not just assuming that you'll live to a certain age, but it's taking the probability that you'll live to each of those ages and factoring it into the current value of Social Security benefits. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dive into the tool. And what we're going to do first is we're going to assume a married couple. We'll assume the female, the wife is 61. We're actually going to put, 62, which I think would mean you were born in 1961. Actually, we'll make it February since we're in February. So you need to know your primary insurance amount. You can get that from your Social Security statement, and there's information here on how to do that. We're going to assume $2,000 for the wife, and for the husband, same age. Obviously, you'll put your own details in here, but we'll leave that at $1,000. And we're going to assume neither has already claimed Social Security, of course, because if you've already claimed Social Security, then, well, you've already claimed Social Security. So this, right now, we're not assuming any cuts to Social Security. This just shows you the recommended strategy. So for the spouse, the person that's got the lower PIA, the tool says, hey, go ahead and claim right now, February 23. And for the spouse with a higher, in this case, the wife with a higher amount, it says wait until you're 70, right? And it gives you some information on the current value of your benefits. Again, assuming this sort of probability-based approach to how long you will live. All right, so now what we can do, if you see here, you can click this link and it opens up a number of other kinds of assumptions you can make or factors you can consider: disability, you're still working, pension, and so on. The one we want to look at is right here: possible future cut in Social Security. So if we tick that, and you gotta find this, but down here it opens up this option: assume Social Security benefits will be cut in the future. We now have to click that to yes. And you'll see what Mike Piper, who's a friend of mine, he also is the creator of this tool. He's a CPA, very, very smart guy. He's already sort of pre-populated this information with the latest information from the Congressional Budget Office report. Obviously, you could change this to model other potential cuts, but we're going to, of course, leave it here. And then if we submit this, and we can see it didn't make a big change in this set of circumstances. The husband's still going to claim now. That hasn't changed. It looks like the wife, it reduced her claiming by just a couple of months, not a huge difference. Now we're going to look at another case where it makes a much bigger difference. But before we get to that other case, I want to show you something that I think, two things really that I think are very useful about this tool. This is the first one. It's a chart that shows you your annual benefit, and what your annual benefit means is the person you put at the top here, if you're married, right? And it shows you year by year. Now this person's not going to claim until they're almost 70. It's a partial year, and then after that they get $29,120. And then here you'll see it drops to $22,000, right? Because we're getting that big 23% cut. It also shows you your spouse's benefit. It shows you your survivor benefit. So right here, if you outlive your spouse, now the higher earner would be no change to the benefit. The lower earner would get potentially more, although again, you've got this cut here. But my point really is this table has got a lot of useful information, and the spouse's annual survivor benefit is here. So you'd see they would get a raise, so to speak. So that's very helpful. The other thing that's very helpful is this chart. It can be a little daunting to figure out what all of this means, but the idea is, and it's based on the main, the spouse that's listed first, right? So again, in this case, it's the higher earner. In this case, it happens to be the wife. And you can see the ideal time to claim where you can maximize your benefits according to the tool is this, I guess, light shade of green. And you can see it's right here, that little dot, okay? And we can actually click on that and it gives you the information. All these other claiming strategies, according to the calculator, will get you less than, based on a present value basis, than that optimal claiming strategy. But you could pick one. You could just pick a dot and it puts the information in. So you can play with this to get an idea of the differences based on when you might claim. Now, the thing I want to point out is this dot right here, which is the optimal claiming strategy, is assuming that benefits are going to be cut, you can see it here, by 23% in 2034. If we say the benefits are not cut, the dot moved just a little, remember, because it only moves it for just a little bit. It goes from, remember, age 70 with no cuts to 69 in 9 months or 8 months if there are cuts. So again, not a very big change, small change, but you can see it graphically here. I find that really useful. So I wanted to point that out. So now how do we see situations where there might be a bigger change in claiming strategies? Well, let's go back to this and let's actually assume a single person. We'll just keep it at female. That's important, obviously, because life expectancies are different for men and women. Same birth date, same primary insurance amount. We're gonna assume, well, actually we can submit it this way. And this is saying they should claim at 66 and 2 months, right? The thing I want to show you, of course, the tables are much simpler if you're not married, but and this table is much simpler because you're not dealing with two individuals claiming. And of course, we can see right here, that's the ideal claiming strategy. Again, assuming cuts are going to happen in 2034 by the amount of 23%, and you can see 66 and 2 months. Well, what if benefits aren't cut? Well, this changes dramatically and says you shouldn't claim until you're 69 and 3 months. So I think a very useful tool. Again, you've got to be aware of the assumptions the tool is making, but I think it can be a good place to start in trying to understand when you should claim Social Security benefits, either with assuming there are cuts or without assuming there are cuts. I think the really big question is, should you assume the cuts are going to happen or not? And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't pretend to have any special wisdom on that question. There's part of me that thinks, because it's such a hot political item, it's hard to imagine that they would allow cuts to happen. At the same time, we're so divided in Congress, it could be a standstill. And if they can't get anything passed, cuts are going to happen. So really, it's up to you to decide how likely you think those cuts are to happen and to make your best decision in light of what you believe. But I do think this tool, Open Social Security, can be a good place to start. Well, I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Do my best to help you out any way I can. I'll also leave links to the tool and the Congressional Budget Office report below the video. Until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.